I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring yes. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
There he is, Kyle Teige, America's favorite Timberwolves commentator in the house here on Flagrant Howls, Phil Mackey. And we were just talking off microphone. It's like, okay, so I think these Thursday episodes with us tend to be big picture first, because you come in and even if they lost a game to the Bucks backups, we think, okay, like we could lead with that, or we could talk sort of big picture what's going on. It's like, so we lead with the fact that the Timberwolves got beat by that version of the Bucks, and Anthony Edwards is now 2 for 21 in his career on shots to tie or take the lead in the final 24 seconds, or do we talk big picture and some of the bigger things that are going on with this franchise? I think we start with big picture, and then we can get into the minutia of two really bad losses.
I would imagine by big picture, you mean should Terrence Shannon Jr. demand a trade? Because he might be the best player on the team right now. What a crazy week, right? I think I'm probably going to give you some of my instant analysis or instant reaction to news that broke 3 days ago now.
Yes.
But as someone who's actually going through some possible career stuff on my end, if you follow the news, this is about the first time I could do a pod this week. So I think you and I are going to catch up on a lot of stuff. I think there's a 36-year-old down in the desert that we should talk about as well. But yeah, do you want to start with just kind of, I mean, you've had a couple more days to marinate on it as well and listen to some stuff. Do you want to talk about ownership first? Because to me, that's 2-1 is the only score and result that I care about this week.
That's
just how I feel.
Yeah, 2-1. I think I would listen to a 2-hour podcast. Like, you know how you like Bravo shows, Andy Cohen always does like the 3-part reunion special.
Yep.
I want to listen to the arbitration reunion special where, and maybe you can be the Andy Cohen, and we bring in the 3 lawyers, we bring in Glenn and his lawyer over here, we bring in the big New York law firm. But my biggest question is, to what extent, and things have been on the rise for the Timberwolves the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's been 4 years since the announced ownership change, at least the start of that process. Anthony Edwards, despite his inability to hit a game-winning shot, is 23 years old. This team has a bunch of young talent. There's rumblings of maybe they make a move for a Kevin Durant, but even though they're not maybe set to go as far as they did last year, things are set up on the court, front office, very well for the next 3 to 5 years. I think people are maybe sick of me ranting about Glenn Taylor over the years, but you go from having a 30-year ownership run, 4th worst winning percentage in the NBA during the Glenn Taylor era, 3rd fewest playoff wins, only 2 seasons advancing in the playoffs. I'm not talking about the last 2 years. I mean, big picture here. To what extent do you feel like, if the NBA Board of Governors greenlights this 70% vote, are we entering a good new era of Timberwolves ownership in basketball?
Yeah, I think it's been worded as transitioning from stability to excitement. All that great stability that this organization has had throughout the years. I think, and again with this vote, by the way, just because you brought it up, I think that vote, there's a couple like random things that have to happen now behind the scenes, as I've been told. I think that vote will probably come mid-March now. So I think this will all be resolved within about a month. So this isn't going to be, I had bad intel on this. This isn't going to be an all-star break thing. I know the Board of Governors get together this weekend in San Francisco.
What would you rather watch, the dunk contest or all of the owners basically 30? You get 30 seconds to speak about your vote and what you think of.
It should be Survivor style, right? Like where they vote into a basket and then they all have to show. Be. And then James Dolan just doesn't vote because he's just a cancer on society.
Or it's like, do you watch that Traitors show on Peacock?
Yeah.
Where you have to determine who everyone has to vote in front of each other at the table. I think that'd be great. I'd watch that.
Again, I've throughout this, I can't believe it's been 4 years, man. Like a whole presidential cycle. I've been pretty open. I know my bias on this stuff. I think unlike some other people who are talking about this topic, I know that I just wanted fresh faces, fresh people behind the scenes, because to that stability versus excitement joke, what was the stability? As it was worded, the typical Wolves fan seems biased against Taylor because of all those years of mediocrity. If I was I just still if I don't, For all these years, I've been biased against Burger King because the food's bad. Yeah. So why would I not want a different restaurant? Why would I not, I'd use this Live Nation reference of people are biased against Live Nation, who also owns Ticketmaster, because of raising fees and bots and all stuff. Like, yeah, people get tired of this stuff. This is, as you just put it, like one of the least successful franchises in 35 years. And credit to Glenn that he kept the team here. Although I will say, and this is not a joke, like my therapist has always been like, was it great that you got to cheer for this team for 35 years? But outside of that, just the stuff that's happened behind the scenes. I mean, the shots that have been taken at new ownership, a group that, by the way, I'm cheering for because I think some of the stuff that they're going to do. I mean, Tim Conley is one of their moves. We should remember that. Michael Grady is one of the things that new ownership has brought in. Dane had a really interesting topic that he talked about the other day about the tunnels or the entrances to Target Center, things that I know people don't see, but you can't be a world-class organization with a garbage arena and garbage treatment of people. So, but I just want to remind you that when you talk about, can you trust new ownership? Why did we have arbitration? Because old ownership tried to break the deal. Just like we've seen Kevin Garnett say before with working with Glenn Taylor, and just like Kevin Garnett or Kevin McHale, both have had bad business deals. So I just am ready for it to be over. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I've told these guys, new ownership, to their face, like, this might be the highest your Q rating is for a while. Like in sports, it's actually very organic and natural to not, I don't know how many people thought of like Jeffrey Loria after the Eagles won, right? They probably thought about like the front office or Sirianni or Saquon Barkley. Like the best ownership to me sometimes is out of sight, out of mind. It's like the opposite of what Jerry Jones does with the Cowboys. So I just want a new perspective, a new way of handling this stuff, because, and shout out to our friend Wolves Box Scores on Twitter and TikTok, but he kind of describes some of this stuff as like crusty. Like, I just want new, fresh ideas. I want them to get a new arena. I want them to think about in that arena not having the Golden State model where you all of a sudden price out the day ones that have been through the mud and you get like a different form of fans in there. Like, make sure you find ways to get, a family of 4 into this new arena wherever you build it and however you finance it. So I'm just happy for something different. And I don't understand why anyone, a fan or anything, should be criticized for that when the track record has just been bad. Like, I always wake up still, now it's different, Phil, but I always wake up for years when I've been doing this, be like, why do people cheer for this team? Like, what do they get? Like, I know we're talking about people maybe losing jobs and all this turnover and stuff. I haven't heard enough this week about the one stakeholder in all of this that only puts money in and doesn't get money out, and that's fans. So I think new ownership, in my opinion, and maybe we'll be wrong, but I think they're going to focus more on that. And those are the people that I believe, I speak for you. Like, that's why we do this show. I don't do this show so the CEO of the company can listen to it. Like, we do this show so that fans have some sort of a voice or a way to kind of get their message out there. So I'm excited that this chapter is hopefully resolved within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to the Suhan article that was written in the Star Tribune about are we giving up stability, chasing? I can't remember the way that how did he phrase it? Or he highlighted like the stability of the Glenn Taylor era. Yeah. Are we chasing some shiny new thing? It's like, I don't know how people define stability in their worlds, but it's been better lately. It's been better in some ways since Glenn identified Ethan as just someone to come in here who has experience in professional sports, and let's come in here and have an actual structure with someone that knows what they're doing. But if you look at 30 years of quote unquote stability, that stability includes going back again to the mid to late 1990s, being an owner that allows a Stephon Marbury relationship to explode. And you could, in any one of these, you could be like, well, what's he supposed to do? But over a 30-year body of work, now we're paying Joe Smith, a role player, under the table and punting 3 first-round draft picks via NBA punishment in the prime of Kevin Garnett's career. And then, then you look at Kevin Garnett's career and whether it was employing Kevin McHale too long, not being able to find a running mate post-Steph Marbury. Okay, now we're getting that. And then we botched the Kevin Garnett trade and turned one of the greatest players of the last 50 years in the NBA into basically nothing. It's like literally one thing after another. 13-year, that's the third longest playoff missing streak in NBA history. from the end of the KG era over here. Okay, Tom Thibodeau, let's bring him. That explodes within 2 years. And in any one of those, you could be like, well, like, what's Glenn supposed to do? He's a nice guy who wears sweaters and stays out of people's way. It's like, well, body of work outside of maybe Donald Sterling with the Clippers, who was a racist and a creep and on a different level. It's hard to find another 3-decade ownership tenure with a lower bar than Glenn Taylor set. So I kind of start there and say, all right, for anyone that's kind of worried about, he kept the team in Minnesota. Well, 30 years ago, totally different in terms of TV revenue, the way people consume. The NBA wants the Timberwolves in Minneapolis, St. Paul. They're not looking to remove a team from a top 15 media market at this point. They might use that as leverage. The NFL and the Vikings kind of did back 10 years ago. Like, we could move to LA. You're not moving an NFL team out of a top 15 market. Same thing with the NBA. They're going to add in Seattle. They're going to add in Las Vegas. But the bar is very low to clear if you're Marc and Alex. So coming in here and being a breath of fresh air, okay, that's kind of a given. That's like putting your name on the top of the worksheet. Just take over for Glenn Taylor. If you can sign at the top, boom, the bar is low. But they do have a great responsibility now here. I mean, they're going to have to they have to navigate immediately. You don't really get a grace period coming in here when you have Anthony Edwards, 23 years old. He's one of the 12 premier players in the NBA. There is an expectation to build at some point off of the Western Conference Finals. So I think any smart front office would look to spend less and get out of the second apron, but you also can't strip it down and be trading. So you have to come in shoes hitting the ground and win games and win at a high level. You don't really get like a 5-year grace period to clean up a mess because it's not really a mess like it has been for many parts of the last 30 years.
And I just can't live my life with the whole like throwing stones in a glass house thing. And I just when I look around this week, because one side is being a little more vocal, I think the new ownership side will continue to remain pretty quiet until this is like completely wrapped up and approved. But like, I don't know, it's just weird for me to wake up and read about how you're not gonna vote for A-Rod still for the Hall of Fame or some of these other things when it's like there's no self-awareness to a lady glued herself to the basketball court because of Glenn Taylor's business transactions. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to start to rip on both, I mean, I would imagine at that level, Phil, everyone has demons, right? Like, everyone has stuff that you can Google on anyone that has a lot of money or success, and you're like that. But none of that stuff should really matter now. Like, let's just put it all behind us. And to your point, it was a big celebration this week, I would imagine, for Marc and Alex and their teams of like, we got it. And we got it at this price, and it's already worth this price. But that's kind of back to my Q rating thing, is like, immediately when you take over, now all of this stuff, good and bad, is going to be accredited to you. So do you extend Tim Conley like right away? And is he the guy that you want to run the basketball stuff? Like, I've seen people give Glenn a lot of credit for the Lynx because they're a real dynasty. They've actually had real success. Like, when you talk about not winning championships in Minnesota, like, don't forget that was a dominant streak. But I credit Cheryl Reeve. I mean, Glenn put Cheryl in a good position, kind of a la Tim Conley, and then Cheryl and her staff were allowed to do basketball moves. So that's what I hope whoever runs this, whether it be Tim Conley or whatever, that you also empower them and then kind of stay out of the way, right? Like, you go big game hunting, let Tim cook. So I just think fans are excited for change, rebranding, a new stadium, all that type of stuff. And I would imagine that's all going to hit real soon, is maybe this summer. But to me, the biggest, and it's tough to talk about this, I always say this, but because you don't really know how to measure it, you don't talk to these people. The biggest advantage you can have in professional sports is ownership. I mean, you just look around, like, the teams that are successful have good owners. Like the Knicks,
look at like the Commanders in the NFL. It was like it was checkmate for them for 25 years because Dan Snyder was a terrible owner, and then he leaves. New ownership comes in, makes a couple good hires, and overnight that team is boom in the conference championship.
And basketball and baseball are different. So as the Twins side of me, like, I'm not concerned about this, but also new ownership syndrome. Like, maybe the fact that this took 4 years will eliminate some of that stuff, because then you look at like what Matt Ishbia has done with the Suns, and he came in and I think he was probably really involved. Again, he spent, which is kind of what you want, but he spent to a level now that I think he paid off credit cards with more credit cards. And like, you don't want that. So get the organization cleaned up however way you want to do that. Focus on the big picture stuff, stadium, rebranding, acclimating alum back into the fold. Like the Kevin Garnett stuff is real, but he was never going to come back here because of prior business dealings with Glenn Taylor.
Dude, that's real quick on the K, because you landed on the KG thing here. That is such a sore spot for fans. I think if you were to take, because Glenn Taylor has a really low approval rating, clearly among fans the last however many years. And if you were to take, okay, all the people that gave him a thumbs down approval rating and then do like a pie chart of why do you think Glenn Taylor's a bad owner? I think the Kevin Garnett broken relationship is really, really high on that list. If this was, what's that game where you have to there's like different answers on the board.
Family
Steve Harvey, Family Feud, right?
Baby, let's go.
Like if it was Family Feud and the number one answer is, I think it'd be the Kevin Garnett jersey hangs in Boston and not Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And that's another one where let's be objective on this. Kevin Garnett, bit of a cantankerous personality. Yep. I think fans have one relationship with KG, but KG behind the scenes throughout the years in Minnesota, he can rub people the wrong way. And so I'm not saying that it's easy to maintain a great relationship with somebody who holds grudges and is cantankerous. But I look at the Vikings and the Will family, and I look at the Pohlad family for as much as they deserve criticism over the years and decades. Well, there's two other examples right here, one of them across the street from you at Target Center, where they maintain amazing relationships with people that they've fired, people that they have released from contracts. Dude, they fired Terry Ryan, the Twins. They fired Ron Gardenhire. They fired Paul Molitor. Fired. Embarrassment, right? You're not good enough at your job. You're fired. All of them come back within like a year or two. Okay, let's bring you back we'll bring you into the Twins Hall of Fame, back for Twins Fest. And they find a way, Dave St. Peter up to the Pohlads, to maintain the most important relationships for the franchise. You think Chris Carter's, the Randy Mosses of the world aren't kind of a pain in the ass behind the scenes? But guess what? They have great relationships with the fans. It is up to the people, the ownership, and trickling down to maintain those relationships. And so that one with Glenn Taylor, that's a huge botch, man. It is ridiculous that KG can't even show up. And part of it's like, if you're KG, come on, dude. For the fans, can you sit courtside for a game and watch Anthony Edwards? So I do put some of it on KG. But that bothers a lot of people. And I do wonder, because I know Alex has done, from what I've heard, some work behind the scenes to maybe bring that relationship back into a place where once Glenn is officially out, it feels like a 2025-26 season thing, right? Like that's got to be one of the first things on the agenda for fall or for maybe early 2026. Get KG back in, put that jersey in the rafters.
You said his name, so I just want to give him a shout out on our basketball pod, but Randy Moss, glad he's doing better. And shout out to Cancer Research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do think, people want new jerseys. They want to bring the trees back. I kind of mess with that, the stadium stuff. But I do think that Family Feud style, the Kevin Garnett thing, because there's also a trickle down of that, right, Phil? Like, we've never really dug into this, but like it was extremely embarrassing that Kevin Garnett's jersey was retired by the Celtics before the Timberwolves. Yep. Like, I know he won a title. I get that. But that he's not, in my opinion, ever going to be thought of as a Celtic outside of the Massachusetts area, whereas like other 49 states, it's probably going to be his time in Minnesota. So getting that relationship back, but also, I mean, that guy is one of the focal media people now covering the league at large, right? Like him kind of supporting the Timberwolves or having, whether he be an ambassador or whatever. Like, I think
let's give him a 0.5%. Marc, Alex, Bloomberg, if you're out there.
Michael Bloomberg,
just like a little, just a little sliver of ownership, just a little slice.
Let's do the math quick on what a sliver is of 1.5 or maybe 3 billion.
Like a third of a percent, maybe, just a little.
I also want to say, and just to be completely transparent, like I've clearly developed a relationship with that other side, and I always just try to tell them like the fans are the ones who I'm not hearing enough about, and I hope that they're on the forefront. Even that Suhan article, right, where it was like, if you gave truth serum to all the people behind the scenes, like they would want Glenn to stay. Who could have used some truth serum that's an employee of the team would be the players. And I don't think that's what they would have said. in terms of who they want to be the owner of the team and how they relate to, just people that are closer to their age or have been through what they've been through, right? Like Anthony Edwards probably doesn't have a lot in common with Glenn Taylor. I would imagine that he has a lot more in common with Alex Rodriguez, who, what we said last week, like all of this trade deadline stuff, roster building, second apron, to me, it's all about the kid who's shooting 2 for 21 in clutch situations. Which maybe
got to clean that up, man. Like, what are we doing in the last 20 seconds of game?
Let's go. Someone go look up. Yeah, like just look up. Maybe Alex can tell him like, hey, when I was 3-2 count, bottom 9, like this is I did not take a 35-foot step back. Like I just tried to get wood on the ball, but I just am ready for it to be done, and I'm ready for a new chapter. And there will be things, if they decide 6 months from now, let's trade Jaden McDaniels into cap space so that we can just cut payroll, we will get on this and everyone will criticize them. I'm hopeful that that's not going to be the plan, that they're going to invest in this because they do have deep pockets now, but it's time. I mean, no one has ever seen a 4-year layaway plan and I know that wasn't the plan. It was 2 years, whatever, then courts, but I hope it goes away. I hope we can just talk about basketball now and some major upgrades to an organization and a facility and a downtown and a state that deserves it. Because again, I still wake up some days thinking like, why do people still cheer for this team? I know season ticket prices, emails went out today and like those are going up again, and just keep that stakeholder in mind moving forward when you're making decisions.
One last thing on this, and we will get to a random Wolf of the Week here. Because you kind of alluded to my guy Patrick Royce, my former 4 years in the trenches doing the Royce and Mackey radio show on 1500 ESPN, and obviously Royce Unchained, one of our podcasts here on the SKOR North Network. I love Patrick Royce. He has been a mentor to me. I don't think he would consider it active mentoring, but when you get to pay attention to someone who's been doing sports media for 40 years. And he put the article out. Classic Royce. Royce loves to punch up. And he loves to poke and needle and troll, and he does it with a little wry grin if you know him. And the article on StarTribune.com was, becoming Timberwolves owner still won't get Alex Rodriguez my Hall of Fame vote, because he's like longtime Baseball Writers of Association. He does not vote for steroid guys, and this is kind of it's like 50% tongue-in-cheek, but also 50% he's covered baseball for a long time, and he has a certain feeling about steroid guys and Alex and whatnot. So I get what he's doing. It's kind of classic Pat. I love him. I disagree. Like, I think one of the things that I sense, and another thing that bothers me, is for anyone that is apprehensive about the new ownership group, it's either Twins fans that hate the Yankees and can't wrap their heads around how is that guy who already owns the Twins figuratively is going to actually own the Timberwolves, and or it's baseball fans or sports fans that are really bothered by the way the steroid thing happened back a decade and a half ago. And I'll just tell you from my perspective, I do not know Alex. I know you've gotten to know that side a little bit. I do not know Alex personally. I've been in a couple media scrums when I used to cover the Twins down in Florida for spring training, and in the playoffs in New York when they were whooping the Twins' ass, and little beat writer Phil Mackey was around. But it kind of bothers me that we bring this thing up from a completely different time in his life and a different sector altogether as a referendum on who he might be as part of an ownership group of the Timberwolves. And again, I don't know him personally. I did hear him pour his soul out for an hour and a half on Dan Le Batard's South Beach Sessions podcast, and I thought that was cool. I thought it was introspective. I feel like if somebody makes a mistake and owns up to it eventually and apologizes for it and does all the things that you would need to do on the mea culpa, how long do we continue to hammer someone? Like, has he, outside of you don't like the fact that he did steroids and was sort of obnoxious about defending himself for a little bit 15 years ago, what has Alex done in this current process, public facing, to make you think, oh, this is going to be a total disaster, like worse than Glenn Taylor over the last 30 years? So I am sitting here willing to give Alex and Marc Lore a wide open blank slate chance. And obviously, if something turns sideways and things don't smell right after a year or 2 years, okay, time to hold people accountable. But I'm kind of like perplexed. The steroid stuff is like, I don't know how that really applies to what's happening here, especially after all the apology tours that he has done. I just wanted to put that out there because my guy Patrick Royce wrote about this in the Star Tribune, and we sparred a little bit about it. But I get what he's doing. But I also it doesn't make sense at the same time.
And this is important, and then we can talk about Ant and maybe KD. But I think you have my back on this. There are a lot of shows at SKOR North. And you might not like listening to a certain person on one of them. Hell, you might not like listening to me, but you like everyone else that's on Flagrant House. That's totally fine. But I do
maybe
think
just like Ross, producer Ross. Yeah, it's possible too.
Who's coming, by the way? He's in the bullpen. If we're gonna keep talking baseball, but I just want this is important to me because we're gonna have him on, and he's a dear friend of mine. But I think you can hate or dislike an article or a journalist at an organization and not completely bleep on the entire organization. And I just want to say that I don't really have relationships with those people you've mentioned, but Chris Hine is our guy, my guy. He's writing an awesome book on Ant, and I think he does a really good job of towing the line here with this whole ownership thing, and he does good work at the Star Tribune. So I don't think everyone needs to be bleeped on, and I don't think anyone needs to be bleeped on because we can all kind of say what we want. I'm just trying to, and I think you are too, just if we're going to dig into one side of it, this is kind of what arbitration was. If we're going to bring up one side of evidence, we're going to throw all the evidence in the pool and then see what happens. So I'm glad that it's over. I hope that it's resolved again in the next couple of weeks. There'll be a press conference. I would imagine there'll be some sort of kind of a celebration, and then it's back to, roster building. What are you going to do this summer? Because there are very few organizations. Again, congratulations. You got a team kind of on a discount. You've probably made a lot of money already, but this is one of the 3 or 4 teams that faces one of the craziest, most impactful summers in any team in the NBA. And now that this ownership stuff's behind them, it's time to get to work because Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Kevin Durant, you got to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, well, 4 of those guys are going to be gone for Kevin Durant once that happens. But so let's touch on that for a minute before we get to the random wolf of the week. A couple nights ago, I was over hanging out at Brixworth in the North Loop, just a little ways down the street from Target Center, with my guy Cooper, who owns the joint, and his awesome staff. Brixworth is a great place to hang out before Wolves games, even away games. They got the games on TV. You can stop in, have some Detroit style pizza, drink that signature Naz Reid hazy IPA. The wings that you may have saw just flash up on the YouTube channel here. They've got some of the best dry rub wings too. I keep talking about the Cool Ranch Dorito dry rub wings, just ridiculous. So stop in to Brixworth in the North Loop. It's just steps away from Target Center. And there's also the OG location in Burnsville too, with a focus and passion for hazy IPA. So check them out. They also offer yummy signature cocktails too. And yes, I said the word yummy. That's exactly what they are. Brixworth in the North Loop. And then coming up next weekend is the North American Bank. This is where Kyle's a big golf guy too. The North American Banking Company Minnesota Golf Show next Friday, February 21st through Sunday, February 23rd at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Couple things to note. We are doing at 1:30 on Saturday, February 22nd. We're going to do a recording of Purple Daily up on the stage at the golf show. John Randall's going to come and hang out with us for a little bit there too. So get your tickets at mngolfshow.com. And this is the best part. Each ticket purchased online gets you 10 free greens fee passes. So, I mean, that right there is, golf's fun. Golf's not cheap. So, mngolfshow.com to get your tickets for the North American Banking Company Minnesota Golf Show.
John Randall?
Hell
Starting
yeah,
power forward for the Timberwolves, according to Britt? That's crazy.
They might need him, yeah, if some of these trades for Kevin Durant go through. So, all right, I have spent way too much time over the last week just scouring for creative Kevin Durant trade ideas. Because on one hand, I think just in a vacuum, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, I think it would be so much fun to watch Durant and Ant play together. Durant is not the impactful player that he was maybe 5 or 10 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, but he can still score. He can still pour in buckets. I think he's still going to be an offensive force for the next couple years. So he's got 1 year left at $54.5 million, $54.7 million. There are some rumors out there that he's going to want that 2-year, $120 million extension too, which now you're getting into like age 38, 39. So on one hand, I'd love to see those two guys play together. It would be so much fun. Maybe it turns into a train wreck like we're seeing in Phoenix, and I get that. But on the other hand, I don't really want to trade Jaden McDaniels in that deal. I'd like to keep Naz Reid on an extension. So to find a way to like send out enough salary and value and get Kevin Durant without stripping your roster is the creative dance here. So like I've got conditions on it, Kyle, but I do think this is going to be a conversation that resumes in the summertime. The Wolves also have to stay under the second apron for a lot of different reasons. What are your thoughts on this Kevin Durant steam that's popped up the last couple weeks?
I think first and foremost, as we look forward, this is absolutely going to be a topic this summer. Bet 100%. I will also say that if you're dying to watch Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant play basketball together, just message me and I'll send you some footage from the Olympics because I saw enough of it. It was fun. But I keep coming back to how old is Ant going to be when he's in his prime? He's 23 as we wake up this morning, right? Like, let's say 26. 3 years from now, Kevin Durant is going to be turning 40.
He'll be on the NBA and NBC panel with Carmelo Anthony, who just got hired as an analyst today.
And by the way, KD would be so good at that because he's never been afraid to mix it up. So
yeah.
Obviously I've had a Jaden McDaniels bias for years. That stock is probably too expensive for some people right now. But even if he wasn't in the deal and you could make it work with I don't get that at all. And I will also say that I was the one who was like, you and I both came to grips with the Rudy Gobert trade because like, okay, what you're trying to do is put Ant in positions to win right now so he kind of learns how to win. As we saw last night in that Bucks game, I think there's still some steps for him to go, but he's only 23. But this is different, right? Because when you go trade for Rudy, I think at the time they got Rudy, there was still some good years left, even though you're starting to see him decline a little bit. Kevin Durant's one of the best scorers of all time, one of the best basketball players of all time. I don't know if it's fair to say that he's got a couple really good years left. Like, he's Kevin Durant. He's always going to, he's just going to give you 25 on any night. But if you had to give up your best perimeter defender, who might now be one of your best rim protectors in Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, who are best friends, like, everyone keeps saying, oh, Ant loves KD. Ant loves Jaden. Ant loves Naz. And those guys kind of fit into the pyramid more a little bit, and they're not going to be commanding $60 million a year, which makes it really hard to build a roster. So if you want a long-winded answer, there you go. If you want a short answer, I'm out. I'm out. Like, we did a Family Feud earlier. If this is Shark Tank, which I think Alex was on.
and for those reasons, I'm out.
I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the details, right? Because you're right. I think Durant has at least one more year of being an easy 26, 27 points, efficient. He's not going to be the greatest defender, and he's probably going to miss a couple games with injury. So but if you look at it from the Suns' perspective, they are a second apron disaster right now. You do not want the second apron repeater penalties too. So we talk a lot about the second apron on this show, and it can be very convoluted and confusing, but if you're in the second apron, you better damn well be a championship finished product because you can't maneuver. It's hard to trade. There's really nothing. They lock you up in terms of the next move. Mm-hmm. So the Suns going into this offseason, the Wolves going into the offseason actually come below the first apron to start the offseason because Nikhil comes off the books. The cap goes up. Naz Reid is only on the hook for the $15 million player option, which he will decline. So, but you start the offseason below the first apron. So the Wolves have some more flexibility where they can package 2 or 3 players together for one. You can't do that in the second apron. If you're the Suns, you are $11 million into the second apron to start the offseason. So your first goal is to cut money from your books. Well, you could trade Kevin Durant $54.5 million to somebody, take back like $40 million to stay within the 25% salary matching parameters, and get out of the second apron. And the Wolves have a couple ways in which they could do that if they could leverage a Julius Randle opt-in or sign and trade. I think you can do that because you're below the first apron. So I've been sitting here all week thinking I want this to happen, but I'm also with you, not at the expense of what Ant's prime could look like in 2 or 3 years and what the roster could look like. So keep sending us ideas for how you can make this happen without like nuking the entire roster around them.
I mean, yeah, can Michael Bloomberg just pay his salary? Like, is there a way to?
I got an idea. What if they paid him under the table? Let's run it back.
Oh, that was really good. That was unscripted. Would they be like? Could you talk it out for a sec? Like, maybe it's still Mike Conley at the point. We got to have a Rob discussion.
Or do we have to use Mike Conley's $10 million to?
Or maybe you do. Maybe it's Rob next year or Dante at the point and Ant and then KD in his natural spot. And then you put, I don't know, or Terrence Shannon Jr. in the starting lineup and Rudy. And like, there's ways to cobble together what you would describe as a good 8 or 9 man rotation. Because again, back to my October point, and we saw it last night, albeit in a loss. This is a super deep team. I mean, they just were like, hey, last night, Rob, Jalen Clark, Terrence Shannon Jr., a bunch of young guys, and they like held their own for the most part. So they would probably be a good team if they traded for Kevin Durant, even if it did have to be like Jaden and Julius and maybe some other piece. But I just keep coming back to, by the time Ant hits his Luka stage or his Tatum stage, which I don't really why would you not think he's going to get to that point? I mean, Kevin Durant's probably going to be off your team. And if that's the case, like, I don't know if I'm going to risk one potential year where it could be a little better for a massive drop-off. I would rather, even if you have to trade Jaden or Nas or some of these other guys down the road, I would want to do it for a guy who kind of fits the timeline a little more. So
that's to that point. You're okay. We can finally package some players together. We're out of second apron roster building hell. Do you save that for either immediately for someone who's in their prime, or do you save it for a year or two down the road while you continue to see what you have and get a little closer to Ant entering his prime? But
and Kevin Durant is one of the 10 or 15 best players of my lifetime. He is literally an apple compared to a D'Angelo Russell hand grenade, right? Like, that's pretty much the only comparisons that they both play basketball. But I also think we got on D'Lo a lot because of all the times he kept changing teams. Like, I think you at least got to bring up the Durant. He just continues to be on different teams and unhappy, and he seems cool to hang out with, but he also, like, why is it that he keeps being in these situations? And I just don't want that around Anthony Edwards.
Well, that is, I would say that toothpaste is so far gone from the tube for him. Like, his legacy, and also the fact that the one organization that helped really like put a stamp on his legacy, which is the Warriors, because that's where he won championships. Well, he got criticized for going there the first time because, you're just joining up with a team that already wins championships without you. And I think he's resentful of that, which is part of the reason why he then wanted to carve his own path in Brooklyn and Phoenix. But he gets a chance at the trade deadline. Why didn't you just go back there, man? Go ahead. And by the way, if you help this version of the Warriors win a championship, you'll get full credit for that one, unlike the other two that you kind of rode along for. And even then, he's kind of always just on the wrong side of career moves, it feels like. But wouldn't this be the right side of a career move, where you come to a franchise that has only twice come anywhere near being good enough to compete for a championship? But it's literally the Timberwolves. I know here we know that they've got something brewing. But nationally, the Timberwolves are viewed as like a 3-decade, 4-decade laughingstock. If you came to a market like this in a team like this and helped deliver a championship, now the counter argument is, could you deliver that championship with the pieces you'd have to trade to get this version of a 37-year-old Kevin Durant? And that's where you probably have the argument in a box.
But it also is, I mean, we're Minnesota sports fans. We've been doing this long enough. I'm pretty sure that Kevin Durant would be open to coming here. Which,
agreed.
You know what I mean? Like, also kind of was like, wait, he wouldn't go play with Steph in Golden State in San Francisco at Chase Center, but he'll come here. Like, I can understand from a fan perspective. I am guilty of this. Oh, they like me? Like, that's kind of a big thing too. I also wonder, to your point, if he did come here and help win a title, would he get the same treatment he got in Golden State, where it's like, well, actually, that was Ant's title, and Kevin Durant was just kind of riding the coattails?
I don't think
so. In this market, but I think nationally he would get the same stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be viewed as like a big brother coming in, and I mean, Ant would be the kind of the driving force. But I think it would be viewed because he literally joined a formed championship team. Mm-hmm. In this case, it would be viewed as, oh, he was like the missing piece to a team that needed that one last. But, and I can already hear people screaming at me in the comment section, is he that dude anymore? Mm-hmm. It's very borderline. And can you maintain enough depth on your team? We already complained about the fact that for the first 40 games, they played a 7.5-man rotation. Well, what would that rotation look like if you had to ship out Jaden McDaniels, and certainly Julius Randle would be part of this, et cetera, et cetera. There's also an iteration where you could do Rudy Gobert's $30 million and something else. Maybe it's like Julius Gobert. You get something back to help even out salaries, but then who's your rim? Now you're playing small ball. Who's your rim protector? I don't know.
Also, Rudy Gobert loves, I think this is public knowledge, Rudy Gobert is a big like crystal guy. And there's no better place to charge your crystals than Sedona, Arizona. So maybe Rudy would love it down there. I will say, in terms of the comment section, someone will also be bringing up that we're 40 minutes into this, and we haven't brought up the fact that the team we cover has lost twice to Kyle Kuzma in 10 days. Again, this week for me is all about arbitration and just getting that behind me. I want a break. I want the All-Star weekend. But in terms of basketball, this team has a lot of stuff to figure out. It was weird that Chris Finch before the game was like, we need to really figure our bleep out over these next 25 games and who we want to be. And who they decided to be last night was a team that shot 16% for most of the game from three and lost to a Bucks team that, feisty, by the way, like they had way more talent even without Dame and Giannis than the Wizards. But last night was a really bad loss. It's not the worst loss of the season because that happened against the Wizards 10 days ago. But tonight against the Thunder, I think we might know how that will probably play out, but they have a lot of soul searching to do over the break because this is, as you wake up again today, and we love doing standings talk, this is a play-in team still, despite all the chaos going on in the West right now. Like, this team needs to find a way to get into that top six.
The most frustrating games are when, specifically the Timberwolves, but this could be any team, are when you look at the box score at the end, you lose 103 to 101. And you go 10 of 44 from three-point range. Mm-hmm. Ant goes 4 for 17. Naz goes 1 for 7. Naz has been the best three-point shooter in the league for the last 6 weeks. And so on one hand, you could very easily chalk up a sloppy, weird loss to, boy, if Naz goes 2 for 7 instead of 1 for 7, or Ant goes 5 for 17 instead of 4 for 17, you come away with a, whew, that was close, but we won the game feeling. I hate games like that. Now, of course, a lot of other things happen to lead to bad threes, and like they're rushing some of these shots. They're not looking for the right shots. You know, dumb turnovers here and there. But yeah, I actually think there's half a chance they beat Oklahoma City tonight because that's the type of team this is, man. They're going to get up TNT. Old Ant-Man's going to come out and drop 48 points or something ridiculous. I could see a win tonight.
I thought about that too right away when they lost last night. Like, oh my God, they did it again. They lose. One of the, by the way, they were going to lose no matter what, but one of the worst calls I can remember was the Terrence Shannon Jr. charge call that Taurean Prince, like, there is no way that was a charge. That was mind-numbing, and it was a big moment because it was an and one that they wiped off the board. But I, too, thought, you know what? This Timberwolves team is going to lose to the Bucks and then beat the Thunder. And I turned over to the Thunder Heat game, and the Thunder finished the game on like a 24-0 run, outscored Miami 32-8 in the fourth quarter to come back and win. I cannot stand with you on this one. I think the Thunder are going to trounce them on the way out to the break. But we'll see tonight. Target Center on TNT, I think.
That's right. Bold take of the show. Kyle's got the Thunder tonight against the Wolves on a back-to-back.
Hot take.
All right, let's bring in producer extraordinaire Ross Brendel here to lead us through a random Wolf of the week. Roscoe, what's going on, man?
You go.
Yes, Kyle.
No, I was just thinking, like, I sent Ross this. I should have sent it to Phil, but as we navigate now towards the best segment of the week, how about Kevin Garnett giving a shout-out to our boy Shane Heel?
Yeah, look at that. Little Twitter love there, too.
One big family.
That's right. Bringing people together.
I also love that KG, I think, in that video, Kyle said something like, I don't know what he's up to. And my first thought was, in today's world, Kevin, it's never been easier to find Shane Heal and just ask him what he's up to. Never been easier.
Yeah, but if you're Kevin Garnett,
Do you
are
need
you
to?
really going to take the time to Google what's Shane Heal up to? Let's go check his Instagram.
Random observation from me, boys. One thing I often do in my head is think about what are these mythical names of bands that I'm never going to form. Second Apron Disaster has entered the top 5 of my pop punk band name. That's a great name.
That's right.
And it would be shortened to SAD, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Second Apron.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
SAD.
Good
Kyle,
job,
would you
Kyle.
rather
Look at
see
you.
would you rather see a third apron or a 4-point shot?
I would just like Ross to tell me how many syllables are in Second Apron Disaster.
4. Second Apron. Second
Second
I think it's
Apron
7.
Disaster. 7.
Ross, you were close, man. The over-under was 2.5.
No,
You just missed it
actually,
there.
I wasn't even close.
Yeah.
You can blame the Lakeville education system for the mess that I've turned out to be.
So Ross is going to lead us through the random wolf of the week here. In year 2 here, I have taken a 5-4 lead with 3 consecutive wins. It's been a month since Kyle won an edition of Random Wolf of the Week. The last handful of Random Wolves are Anthony Peeler, Nicolas Skidishvili, Jared Vanderbilt, Christian Leitner, and Greg Monroe. All time, Kyle leads 26-17.
Guy gets the slimmest of leads, and he's just throwing shade at you, Kyle. I love it so much.
That's right. Let's go.
So just a reminder, heat check, gentlemen. After the first clue, you can guess. It does not count against you. 3 guesses, you lose. The other person automatically wins. So use your guesses wisely should we use enough clues to get there. Are you boys ready?
Yeah, never been more ready.
Let's get it.
All right,
Never
let's
been more
go.
confident.
This a random wolf of the week, born in Columbus, Ohio, home of the Ohio State University. Born in Columbus, Ohio.
I know this isn't, well, whatever. Mike Conley.
That was my guess. I swear to God.
That's crazy, but not correct.
Oh my God, I was literally gonna guess Mike. Kata Bates Diop.
That is incorrect. Also reminds me, does anybody still know how to properly pronounce that last name?
Is
Has
it
anybody
Diop? I thought
figured
it was
it out?
like Jop. Like it's
I think it's
spelled
Jop. But I think it might be Diop,
Can I look that up? Just
Yeah,
Kata
you can.
Bates? Okay.
because Diop was always what I went with. Then when he was here, I think I was told it was Jop or Jop.
Kata. Oh, there is no pronunciation. No, Kata Bates. I guess Diop. Okay, it does say Diop. I tried to get tricky.
But I feel like the announcers went with what you said, which brings up this question of have we ever figured it out?
I guessed him
You know
because
what?
he's also an Ohio State guy, by the way. But he's not.
Okay. Yeah, he is. Yes, he is. All right. Question number 2, or excuse me, clue number 2. This random wolf of the week played just 13 games for the Toronto Raptors.
Okay, wow.
Sometimes the clues you can't read much into, boys. Sometimes you can. What does this clue mean? It's up to you guys to decide. This random wolf of the week played both forward and center in the NBA.
Rasho
Play-
Nesterovic.
Rasho is incorrect. Anytime you
was
can
a
use
good
Rasho. And I do want to clarify, he played both forward positions and center. I think that kind of goes without saying.
Okay.
But nonetheless, we move on. This random wolf of the week was a Milwaukee Bucks draft pick, but his rights were immediately traded in a draft night deal. This random wolf of the week played for 4 different NBA franchises. 4 different franchises, Milwaukee Bucks draft pick, rights immediately traded, played forward and center, born in Columbus, Ohio, brief stint with the Toronto Raptors. This random wolf of the week did play in over 500 career NBA games.
Boy, this This is deep. It feels like a deep cut. I don't know.
This random Wolf of the Week was the 11th overall pick in 1995's NBA draft.
It's the KG draft. There you go.
Oh. Is it?
Right? It's KG
Is it
draft.
the? Oh my God! No. Is it? He was wearing a awesome jacket last night. Is it Gary Trent?
Oh, there you go.
It is Gary Trent.
dude. Wow.
Kyle.
No. Shout out to
work.
Phil. Phil shouldn't have
Nice
said
work.
that. The Garnett draft.
I didn't even get to go with the next clue, which
Wait, was this? Feel like usually you use the random wolf algorithm generator. This feels like a
I do.
strategically placed.
No.
Based on Gary Trent's kid also lighting up the Wolves last night.
here's the deal. This was actually wrote 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
But I did not
timing.
join a week and a half ago. I did not join on your trade deadline edition where you broke down all of and the many additions the Minnesota Timberwolves made.
If you haven't seen the Gary Trent, the father, not the son, if you haven't seen what he wore last night to the game, sitting in like what it was basically he was sitting in 3 seats.
Yeah.
I think a quick Twitter search, CJ Fogler, our guy, will show you. He looks like he was not going to a basketball game. He might have been going to another establishment.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
That's all I got for now.
He was enjoying himself last night at Target Center.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you guys are aware, and I did know this, forgot about it, but it was good to see again. The Shack of the Mac was his nickname.
Yeah.
Because he attended the Ohio University.
Yeah.
That's
Great, man. This is a good one. Kyle, congratulations. You're back in the win column here. We're tied at 5 in year 2 of the Random Wolf of the Week. Producer Ross, great job as
See you,
always.
boys.
All right. We'll do it again next week. We'll recharge during All-Star Weekend, and we'll see if the Wolves can at least win one of these next 3 games against Oklahoma City. The Oklahoma City series in the middle of the regular season. It's
Crazy.
It's going to be great. All right, he's Kyle. I'm Phil, and this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.